Peru's President Pedro Castillo proposed the reintegration of Chile and Venezuela as full members of the Andean community, in addition to proposing a sub-regional integration mechanism with Argentina. Iraqi authorities declared a nationwide curfew in the face of the crisis sparked by the Cyclist movement's protests. Angola's Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, the MPLA, was declared the winner of fresh general elections, giving President João Lourenço a second term. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with news. Peru's President Pedro Castillo proposed the reintegration of Chile and Venezuela as full members of the Andean community, in addition of proposing a sub-regional integration mechanism with Argentina. The event was held on the occasion of the transfer of the CAN's pro-temporary presidency from Ecuador to Peru. President Castillo declared his government's intention to count on the presence of Argentina in a sub-regional integration project. The Peruvian president made these statements from the organization's Lima headquarters in a meeting attended by presidents of Colombia, Bolivia, and Ecuador. The Andean community is a mechanism that promotes the integration and development of the Andean countries, where Venezuela and Chile were part of it, while Argentina never belonged. Venezuela and Colombia formally resumed diplomatic relations on Sunday after the arrival of their ambassadors Felix Plasencia and Armando Benedetti in Bogota and Caracas, respectively. The purpose is to re-establish binational relations in different areas, betting on cooperation and integration to consolidate significant progress for both peoples. After the arrival to power of Colombian President Gustavo Petro and after a 3 years hiatus, with this normalization, it is expected to boost commercial exchange, regarding which the Colombian-Venezuela Chamber manages projections of exchanges estimated between $800 to $1,200 million in 2022, after last year's figure was around 400. Another top issue will be migration, as thousands of people cross the border every day, and one of the challenges in this regard will be to reopen the border bridges in Táchira, which are limited to pedestrian traffic. Systematic violence continues in Colombia with the murder on Monday of a new social leader in the department of Magdalena, this 122nd so far in 2022. According to the Institute of Studies for Development and Peace, in the past, the victim was identified as Neiber Pertus, and he was killed by armed men in the interior of his home in the municipality of Remolino. Pertus was a recognized community leader in the village of Santa Rita de Acacias and stood out for leading road and health projects. According to In the Past, so far this year, 122 social leaders and human rights defenders and 1,349 leaders have been murdered since the signing of the peace agreements. Brazil's presidential candidates faced each other on Sunday in their first debate, ahead of the October 2nd elections, where former President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva leads in all polls. The candidates who participated in the first debate were Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, the ultra-right Jair Bolsonaro, Simón Tebet, Soraya Tronic, Felipe Davila, and Ciro Gomes. Lula stated his government would invest in health and housing, and pointed out that when he took office there were over 3 million students, and by the end of his term the figure reached 8 million. Ciro Gomes explained the urgency for food security and education. Key issues include environmental protection, the need for gender equity and economic protection, health, and the effects of the pandemic, as well as the political stability of the South American country. During the debate, former president and presidential runner for the Workers' Party, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, highlighted what his government achieved for the common and humble people of Brazil, after being interpelled by candidate Soraya Tronic.
You said that you did not see this country I painted here happening. Your drivers saw it, your gardeners saw it, your housekeepers saw it. You can ask your housekeeper if she saw that this country has improved. She saw she could have lunch and dinner every single day, that she could have breakfast, that her son could go to university. Your gardener also saw it. Poor people had their lives improved and gained citizenship.
For his part, Brazil's current president and candidate for the re-election, Jair Bolsonaro, attacked Lula and his running mate Geraldo Alckmin using religious arguments instead of actual normalization.
President Lula supported Nicaragua's President Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, who persecuted Christians, arrested priests, expelled sisters, a religious persecution. And when he is questioned about it, he says, we cannot interfere in other countries. What's going to happen with our Brazil if this former prisoner comes back to the crime scene alongside Geraldo Alckmin, Lula's vice president and former Sao Paulo governor, a religious man, Catholic, but who decided to sing the International? It is a reunion of everything that is not good in Brazil. We do not deserve this for our homeland.
Social and political organizations in Argentina urge the people to remain alert to defend democracy and mobilize against interference. Representative of Frente de Todos in the city of Rosario urged this Sunday trade unions and social organizations to remain united and alert before the interference of the United States. The political party warned that there is a coup d'etat in the making by the Argentine oligarchy and the United States, who use the media, judicial, and financial apparatus for their purposes. Senators of that political coalition also rejected the acts of violence by police of Buenos Aires against people who came to the home of Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner to support her. Let us take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back from the South. Trade unions in the United Kingdom are considering stepping up strikes in services and industry to secure wage increases for workers struggling in the crisis due to the high cost of living. Unions are expected to submit motions ahead of next month's Congress that would allow them to coordinate strikes to ensure the greatest impact on services. The head of public services at the Trades Union Congress, Kevin Rowan, said the Union Center would support and encourage unions to ensure the strikes achieve the desired result. Britain is facing a massive cost of living crisis with pay raises failing to keep up with inflation, which last week stood at over 10%.
Want it to be as short and as effective as it can be. In order for it not to be prolonged, then you want to maximise its effectiveness. If that means unions working together, then we would absolutely support and encourage unions to do that.
Iraqi authorities declare a nationwide curfew in the face of the crisis sparked by the Sadrist movement's protests. Iraqi security forces declare a total ban until further notice on movement in all provinces due to protests by supporters of Shiite leader Muqtada al-Sadr. Sadrist supporters assaulted the Iraqi government palace during Monday after their leader announced his withdrawal from politics while authorities attempt to contain the situation. After the announcement of al-Sadr's withdrawal from politics, Iraqi President Barham Saleh met with acting Prime Minister Mustafa al-Qasemi to address the situation and announced a new session of national dialogue this week. According to medics, 12 Sadr supporters were shot dead and 270 others hurt Monday as clashes rocked Baghdad's fortified Green Zone. And teleSUR will dedicate its coverage of the Football World Cup Qatar 2022 to the figure of Diego Armando Maradona, who accompanied our crew in the last two World Cups. With the football star, we also tour our continent with the show De Sur da Viajero. We want this tribute to have its own music. With this in mind, we invite you to write compose a song for teleSUR's coverage of Qatar 2022 Football World Cup. It must be an original song, never recorded before or published in any media, and free of legal attachments. Record the song in any telesurtv.net with the following information: author's name, nationality, and name of the song. The closing date for the call for entries is September 10th, 2022. A jury of prestigious musicians and composers from the region will select the winning piece. The prize will be the recording of the song, a video clip, and the wide diffusion of the work. 1 week after the closing of the call, teleSUR will announce the results. And we have good news on the developing of our song contest for Qatar 2022, which already has over 35 songs submitted from Argentina, Cuba, Colombia, Spain, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Ecuador. In this context, we introduce one of the first 4 musicians who will choose the winning song, famous Cuban singer and songwriter Raúl Torres. Raúl Torres was born in Bayamo, the capital of Granma province in eastern Cuba. Torres has a talent that was discovered by the famous Pablo Milanés, who guided him in the beginning of his artistic career. He has recorded several pieces with founders of the Nueva Trova movement and performed with other great musicians such as the Brazilian Simón, the Argentinian Fito Páez, and the Spanish Ana Belén and Joaquín Sabina. Among his most relevant songs are A Cuba, Cantil de Nieve, Se Fue, Regrésamelo Todo, El Regreso del Amigo, dedicated to President Hugo Chávez, and Cabalgando con Fidel, a tribute to Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro after his passing. It is now the turn of Teresa Parodi, singer, author, and composer of Argentinian folklore. Parodi was also the first Minister of Culture during the administration of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner. Teresa Adelina Sellares, better known as Teresa Parodi, began her singing and guitar studies at the age of 9 with Maestro Blas Benjamin de la Vega. Later, she joined the quintet of Maestro Astor Piazzolla as a guest singer, touring around the provinces of Argentina. In the 80s, she began her career as a solo singer with emblematic songs such as Distinto, Oración de Lluvia, Apúrate José, among others. Parodi is one of the most representative voices of Argentinian folklore in her country and the region in the last decades, having won a Carmín de Oro award for her career at the National Folklore Festival of Cosquín. Former member of the Chilean band Juana Fe, Juanito Ayala, is one of the members of the jury of the Qatar 2022 song. Juanito Ayala is a Chilean songwriter and singer. Thanks to his 15 years of musical career, he has become one of the leaders of Chilean music with social and dancing themes. He started as one of the main voices of the band Juana Fe, which made him make his work known not only in his country but also in South America, Mexico, and Europe, popularizing songs like Callejero, La Maquinita, and in his solo career songs such as Tanta Música, Dos Veredas, and his most recent single, El Gatillo and Lo Comido y Lo Bailado. Hits that make him one of the most charismatic and representative face of the Chilean music scene. To finish this first part of the song Qatar 2022 jury members, we will introduce you to Mexican rapper Rodrigo Lopez, known as Lengua Alerta. Rodrigo Lopez Lengua Alerta comes from Naucalpan, a city located in the outskirts of Mexico City. From a very young age, he joined rock, garage, and punk bands. In the middle of the 90s, he joined the rock band Tijuana No, a band that from the beginning was characterized by its strong political and social criticism. Already starting his career as a soloist, Lengua Alerta gets fully involved with the sound system culture originally from Jamaica, performing in public spaces, urban and rural stages to take his lyrics and sound to cultural forums as well as to indigenous and autonomous communities. Among his most outstanding singles are Aurora, Tu Nombre, and A Recuperar. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. On Monday, Angola's Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola was declared the winner of fresh general elections, giving President João Lourenço a second term. Official results announced by the National Electoral Commission reported the People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola won 51.17% of the ballots against 43.95% for the main challenger, the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola. UNITA had earlier rejected provisional results, and its leader, Adalberto Costa Jr., called for an international panel to review the count. The MPLA, a former liberation movement, has ruled Angola since independence from Portugal in 1975. Lourenço, a 60-year-old former general, was first elected in 2017, winning 61% of the vote.
The plenary of the National Electoral Commission proclaims as President of the Republic of Angola João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, head of the MPLA Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, political party with the most votes in the general elections of August 24 of 2022.
The Tokyo International Conference on African Development concluded on Sunday with a series of agreements and $30 billion in funding for African countries. The economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, the food crisis, and the challenges of climate change were some of the issues discussed at the two-day conference. Noticeable was the commitment made by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who called for fixing a historic injustice and pushing for Africa to gain a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Despite its stagnant economy and the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, Japan sees Africa as a solution for its constant demand for energy resources and allies to position itself internationally.
Even under these circumstances, with the participation of many dignitaries from various African countries, lively and interactive discussions took place between Japanese and African officials in various fields over the last few days. Among leaders in Japan and Africa, we were able to adopt the Tunis Declaration, which allowed us to reach an agreement on cooperation in a wide range of fields.
The National Disaster Management Authority in Pakistan said the death toll from the floods in the country has now surpassed 1,000 people and that nearly 120 of them died in the last 24 hours. The government has declared a state of emergency, and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs estimates that more than 2.3 million people have been affected by the rain since mid-June. But in recent days, government officials had raised that figure to at least 30 million Pakistani citizens. Nearly 95,000 homes were destroyed and more than 504,000 head of livestock were killed. Helicopters are having difficulty finding solid ground to land and deliver aid. Local authorities warn that flooding torrents and rivers will cause more damage in the coming days.
We went to our grandmother's house, and when we returned home in the evening, we thought that the flood water must have subsided, but the flood had increased and the policemen were not letting us go towards the house, and our house was swept away by the flood, and only one room is remaining now.
Russia's defense ministry spokesperson Igor Konashenkov confirmed Russian forces shot down an Ukrainian unmanned vehicle which was trying to attack the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
The Ukrainian strike drone was shot down by small arm fire while approaching the special building number 1, which stores American-made nuclear fuel and solid radioactive waste. The drone shot down by Russian servicemen fell on the roof of special building number 1. Serious damage and casualties were avoided. Shelling by Ukrainian troops of the city of Energodar, located near the nuclear power plant, does not stop over the past day. Ukrainian artillery fired 8 large caliber shells at residential areas of the city. There are wounded among the civilians. 2 shells exploded in close proximity to the perimeter of the nuclear power plant.
teleSUR English continues to grow its signal and reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer, tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in all the faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and unfaithfulness to our audience. Now we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok at the account teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. You know where to find us. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.